Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. So today we have a special guest. But before I even get into the guest, I got to get into the topic. Here's the thing. There are so many things to think about as a professional. And I'm not just talking about medical sales. I mean, as any professional, whether you're someone that's in medical sales or you're someone that wants to get into medical sales, you got a lot of things to think about outside of your career. You got your family, you got your health, you got your hobbies, your activities, your interests. And one very important thing that you got to think about that really can't be ignored no matter what is your finances. You got to be thinking about your finances. And today, this guest is going to give us an education on how you should be thinking about your finances. The reason why this interview is so valuable, and I like to just say it's special, is because this is an individual that started in real estate, got into it at a very young age, got into investing, then found medical device sales, then became a leader in that space, then left all of it to go enterprise his real estate investing empire that is thriving today. It's a fascinating story. And again, it's such an important topic to talk about because you can find the best position. You can be the best rep or leader and you can make the most money. But what does it mean if you don't know what to do with it and you don't know how to manage it? And how beautiful can life be when you can put yourself in a position to really do whatever you like, to really do whatever you like to the point that you can leave a high-paying position and go start your own business that does even more than you ever could have as an employee. It's something to really process and evaluate and consider for yourself what you can learn. So I'm so happy and I'm excited for this episode. I'm not even going to give his name. That's how excited I am. I'm just going to start the interview. But before I do, I want to say another thing. So it's 2021. It seems like 2021 has become the year of part twos. If you notice, almost every interview I've had this year has had a part two. And here's the thing. If an interview goes long, then I'm going to break it up because I want to make sure that you get every word. So I want to keep it not short, but just long enough so that you're tuned in and you're getting all the valuable information because our guests have so much value to bring every time they show up. And guess what? This is another interview that also went long. So this is part one. It's a great interview, and I really hope you enjoy it. And as always, thank you for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hey, Chris, what's going on? How we doing today?
Samuel, I'm fantastic. It's great to see you.
Definitely. You too. So everyone, we have Chris Larsen with us today, and he has an interesting story to tell. This is someone who's been in the medical device sales industry, spent a lot of time in spine, spent time in leadership, and then has transitioned himself into an entirely different entrepreneurial pursuit to the point that he has firmly established himself as an entrepreneur and founder. So I'm not even going to say anymore. I'm not going to spoil it. Chris, please tell everybody who you are and what it is you do.
Yeah, Samuel, I appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, I talk for anybody that's listening today. I talk about my story in depth in my book, which anybody can get today. If you're listening, it's at nextlevelincome.com. You can just click on the book link. But I talk about how I've come to found Next Level Income. So I'm the founder. I'm also the current managing partner of Next Level Income. We talk about helping investors achieve financial independence through both education and opportunities. But as you mentioned, Samuel, I spent really 18 years in the industry. If you add my 2 years with Pfizer, first as a pharmaceutical rep, on the orthopedic side. And then I was a joint rep. I sold joints, trauma, so hips, knees, shoulders, as well as trauma. So I was working, 5, 6, 7 days and nights a week in the OR before transitioning to a biologic specialist and then ultimately a spine rep. And I spent almost the last 5 years of that 18 cumulative years in a leadership role in a management position with NuVasive, which is I would say the leading spine company in the world, but it's the number 3 spine company. But that Q1 was my last quarter in that role.
Awesome. So, that's the fascinating thing. Please tell us a little bit more about the company you founded. And why don't you just kick us off with when you were in your career in NuVasive, was this something that has always been there, or was this a spark that happened, recently that said, I'm going to start focusing in this direction? Go ahead. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I might have even said it a little bit backwards, Samuel. So actually I was an investor before I was a medical device rep or a pharmaceutical rep. I was an investor. When I was 21, I bought my first property.
Nice.
And my goal was to buy enough properties. Now, these were single family rentals that I could have $10,000 after expenses before debt service. So $10,000 a month coming in. I thought, man, if I can get these debt free, $10,000 a month, that's enough to live on and have a comfortable life.
Wait. You were thinking like this at 21?
21, absolutely.
On your own, or was this inspired by someone else?
So if you look at kind of before that, when I was 5 years old, I lost my father. He actually died in a plane crash. And that has an impact on you. Yeah. But I talk about, again, in my book, how I lost my best friend when I was 19. He was only 18 years old. And really when I think back, that had an even bigger impact. So at that point, I was racing my bike. My dream at that point was to be a professional cyclist. Okay. And it's really neat. Like if you're listening and you remember back to the time you were able to like hop on your bike and, ride to your friend's house or the store. When I was a kid, you were a kid, like we'd like ride to the 7-Eleven and get a pack of gum or, a soda or a Subway and get a sandwich or something like that. And I just remember that feeling of freedom. And for me, that feeling of freedom, I think I always associate with cycling. And then when I started racing bicycles, as a teenager, I was driving up and down the East Coast racing bicycles. Like at 16, I was driving, 2, 3, 4 states away to race my bike. I was flying across the country by myself. I was staying at the Olympic Training Center. And I just loved the freedom of being able to, travel and see new places, but also, race my bike. I love the competitive environment. Sure. After my friend died, I poured my heart and soul into it. I was doing well. I was winning a lot of races, but I wasn't happy. I was hollow. Mm-hmm. When I quit, I still thought, okay, I want this freedom. How do I get it? And I knew that I had to not only live the best life that I could to have as big of an impact, but also honor my friend, Chris, who wasn't alive anymore. So when I started thinking about, okay, how am I going to do this? I came to investing. I thought, okay, if I can become financially independent, I can then have the most impact on this world. And I was trading in the stock market at the time. I was day trading. And after making and losing a lot of money, this was during the 90s, kind of like today, where you had these crazy valuations with tech stocks and you had these big swings and the market was at all-time highs. And after, going through one of these big swings in my own portfolio, I was laying in bed one morning at 3 a.m. and thinking, I don't want to be doing this in 20 years. I want to feel secure. Mm-hmm. I want to know that I have steady income coming in. Mm-hmm. I read 250 books. I got an MBA in portfolio management. And this was all kind of during this, say 2, 3, 4 year period.
How old were you at this time?
So this was going, I'd say from like age 20 when I quit cycling until about age 21, 22, when I kind of solidified what I would call my investing thesis.
Got it. So you were day trading. Wow. Who I mean, let's get into it. Who raised you?
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate. I had a mother who, she was always there for me, helped me with my schoolwork, made sure we were in a good neighborhood and still got to go to good schools even after my father passed away. And then I was also very fortunate to have a stepfather in my life. My mother remarried. And again, he was always there for me. But really, the person that was the biggest influence in my life was a man named Clint Provenza. He was a family friend from church. And he did 2 things that were really impactful in my life. One, he introduced me to cycling and more specifically racing bicycles. And 2, he introduced me to this concept of investing in compound interest. He gave me a money magazine that had an article about a Roth IRA. So
Yeah.
I started a Roth, and I, started just investing in index funds. And then I also started, my own brokerage account and was day trading.
And this was all at 20.
I was a junior in college at the time. Yeah.
Junior in college. Okay. So you're day trading, you're getting the fundamentals down. Well, actually, well beyond the fundamentals down. You're making some money, and you're thinking to yourself, you know what? I don't want to be doing this in 20 years. I want security. And
Absolutely.
then at around 22, you made a transition. Tell us what happened.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, my main focus, still invest in the stock market, but my main focus was going to be real estate. And I like two things about real estate, Samuel. I like the control. I like the ability to have control. You could actually buy at a lower valuation and improve it. And the other thing was the leverage. So for somebody that didn't have a lot of money, you could take like $2,000 or $3,000 as I did, and I bought my first investment property. And that's really powerful. So if you're thinking, okay, I'm getting started here, what options do I have out there? I mean, if you want to make a lot of money in this world, I think there's a couple different vehicles for it. My favorite is real estate.
Got it. And so, okay, so you transitioned into real estate. I mean, when did the medical device space even come into the equation?
Yeah, so it's a little bit serendipitous, but also kind of blended with my direction. So I mentioned how I didn't have a lot of money, but I wanted to invest. So I still had some money in the stock market. I bought my first rental property. I actually bought my second rental property. I was working for State Farm at the time. So I'm 2 properties in. I'm thinking I need more money. I looked at different sales careers out there. Real estate was one of them. And I thought, okay, I could do real estate sales, and I could buy real estate. But the other thing that popped up was actually pharmaceutical sales. My engineering degree was in biomechanical engineering. And I thought, okay, pharmaceutical sales, that's pretty cool. I had no idea that there was this world, within, med device space.
Right.
So I'm working for State Farm. I talked to my agent that I was working with, young guy named Brandon Simonis. He was 27 at the time. He played football. He's actually Frank Beamer's nephew. He played football for Virginia Tech.
Oh, wow.
And I'm talking to Brandon one day. We were friends, and I helped him kind of get his practice off the ground, helping him with some sales stuff. Initially, I was working for him, and he said, "Man, you got to meet my friend Alan." He goes, "You guys would really get along." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, what does he do?" He's like, "He sells like implants or something." I was like, "What?" He goes, "You got to talk to him." So I call Alan. I said, "Alan, can I take you out to lunch?" He said, "Sure." So I take Alan out to lunch. I said, "Alan," I said, "Brandon says like you sell medical like implants." I said, "That sounds so cool," because we designed those in my junior year of college.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In one of my classes.
So
now this was
kind of had some exposure early on.
Yeah. So this is a couple years later, and Alan's like, "Yeah, I sell hips and knees." I'm like, and I'm just like, this is so cool. So he tells me all about it. And I'm thinking, okay, this is what I want to do. So I asked him 2 questions. I said, okay, one, I said, "Alan, how much do you make?" And he said, "Well," he goes, "I started off my first year, I made about 75 grand. He goes, "I've been doing it about 5 years." He goes, "I made $350,000 last year." So, I mean, my jaw hit the table. So my second question was, how do I do this? Right. So, cause I was trying to find a career where I could make 6 figures.
Yeah.
I figure, hey, if I can make 6 figures, I can have, pay my living expenses and invest a lot of this money. Yeah. And my rule has always been to invest 50% of what I make. So I thought, okay, if I'm making good money. So Alan said, "Hey, you can do 2 things. You can basically go and be an apprentice for somebody like me, like run trays and, just be, someone's, female dog, shall we say, right? Or
I was gonna see if
gopher. Maybe say gopher. I don't know if you have a PG or PG-13 rating on here. Or you could like do pharmaceutical sales and transition back. And I thought, well, I looked at both options, and the pharmaceutical sales option was a little bit of a sexier route because you get a car, you get an expense account. It's harder to do. But here's the thing that really convinced me to go that way, Samuel. And this is where if people are listening to your show, they get this. Pfizer, who I ended up going and working for, had the best rated sales training in the world.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm going to go get the best sales training that I can do. So if you're listening, the number one thing that I would take from that is go out and get the best sales training that you can get. That's going to help you, just be as successful as possible. And then 2 years later, I transitioned into med device, but I can tell you go ahead.
We'll finish that sentence, and I have a question for you.
Yeah, well, I was going to say what I can tell you is pharmaceutical sales. Sometimes if you talk to a med device rep, they kind of give pharmaceutical reps kind of a bad rap, or they're like,
Yeah,
oh, they're not
yeah.
really salespeople. I'll tell you what, if you can sell pharmaceuticals, you can really sell med device well.
Got it. Got it. And that's exactly what I was going to ask you about, because I know a lot of recruiters, and they'll tell me, they'll say, Samuel, a lot of my clients specifically say we don't, if they're in pharma, we do not want to talk to them. We want business to business sales or something else, but not pharma. And
I think
and
that's a mistake.
I agree, because with that being said, in my program, I've helped pharmaceutical reps get great medical device sales positions, and there's a lot of value a pharmaceutical rep has to offer to something like that, if that's what they want to do. But what would you say? Someone, because this is a very, very common question for people that want to enter. Should I do pharma? Should I go business to business sales?
Mhm.
Between the two, and you can take in your experience, where would you say someone should put their energy?
Okay, so I would say I would identify the company that has the best sales training
Got it. And you take it
and
right
do
back
that.
to that. I get
Yep.
it.
I
I get
would,
it.
I would,
Makes sense.
so, and that's my advice when to young people is don't, and look, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
I think I got this from him. He said, don't take a job for what it'll pay you. Take a job for what it will
What you will
teach you.
do. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Love it.
So if you come out the other side and you say, hey, I can do this job for a few years and then I'll be worth twice what I am right now, that's because of what they train and teach you.
Well,
And that's my advice. I
yeah.
mean, it might make it a little tougher if you go with a company that is not as well known, or isn't as well known within the med device space, if that's your goal, or pharmaceutical, if that's your goal. But if you have the best sales training, do it. Make the effort to enter in that, because what will happen is you'll ultimately be more successful in the back end. And that's really, as an individual, what you want.
So talk to us about that. You
Yeah.
got this sales training. How did it play out when you entered the medical device space? What were you able, I mean, if you
Yeah.
can, from what you can remember,
Yeah.
what were you able to really say, wow, I am so glad I was trained this way, because I'm living my best now in this medical device sales space.
Yeah, so I think the training was great, but it was more the feedback I got from the surgeons along the way is what I'm going to share. So there's a couple things.
Mhm.
So when I ultimately interviewed to go from pharmaceutical in the medical device space, I had my suit on, I had my resume printed out on that nice paper stock, just
Right.
good, great ink, nice and crisp. And I
Sure.
sat down across from this sales manager and I slide my resume across and I'm all proud and I'm ready to, answer questions. And you know what he did, Samuel? He slid it right back across the table.
Wow.
And he said, I don't need that today. And I looked at him and I was like, what the hell is going on? Is he going to say, hey, this interview's over or what? And he said, Chris, what's the most important thing in sales? And I looked at him and I thought about it and I said, relationships. He goes, relationships. So he said, Chris, he goes, we've talked to the surgeons you work with and they all highly recommend you. They say we should hire you. He goes, so that's why I don't need to see your resume, because I already know you have the relationships and you have the ability to do this job. And when he told me who he spoke to, I thought back to the feedback that those surgeons had given me.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, a couple things stuck out. One, there was a surgeon, and specifically because there's a lot of physicians I called on. I called on family practice. I called on surgeons.
Yeah.
All kinds of. And he said, "Chris, you know what I like about you?" He goes, "You come in." He goes, "You don't waste my time, and you always give me something of value. Like you provide me some value with what you tell me. Like if it's a study or a trick to help my patients or something to save me a little time." He goes, "That's why I'll always talk to you." And then one of the surgeons, he actually gave this feedback to his partners. He said, you know what's great about Chris? He's been coming into the office and he's been helping the office staff make sure that they're set up to handle the approval process with the pharmaceuticals that we were dealing with. I made it easy for the staff.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to saving time and providing value.
Yep.
So if you can provide value
Mm-hmm.
with those relationships, that's going to ultimately, allow you to really do whatever you want to do.
Facts. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So you're in the medical device sales space, and you were specifically in spine.
So my dream job was joints, and I thought that's all I wanted to do. And it's wonderful. I love working with orthopedic surgeons, but I didn't really know about spine. So I get this call. I talked to a recruiter. I was looking for a bigger opportunity. I get this call and he tells me about this role. And it's actually a funny story. This is worth talking about.
All right, talk to me.
So he reads me. He's like, Chris, this role. He reads it down, and that was what he got. I said nothing. He goes, Chris, talk to me. He's like, come on, man. This is like, you gave me this like impossible list, and I'm giving it to you. Well, I knew that the role, the president of that division for Medtronic,
Yeah.
was the brother of the guy I worked for at DePuy. And I said, man, I can't. I was like, I can't go out for this. I'm like, I work for this guy. He's a great guy. I don't want to. He goes, listen, just go for the job. Just go for this role. So I end up interviewing, end up in the position. And what I found was I fell in love with spine because spine's very challenging. We still don't know everything that we need to know about spine. Joints are very predictable. You get this 98% success rate. Patients are happy. They leave the operating room and they say, I wish I had it done sooner. Spine is, a little more nebulous. It's harder to pin down. But it's also, it's more complex and there's more opportunity in that. So what I found was I really enjoyed being in that environment where, it was continual learning, continual value creation, and also a lot of innovation. And I'm a nerd. I was in math club. I was in the marching band. I went to orchestra camp. All the jokes are true. I can tell you that. Cool. I didn't no crazy stuff with instruments in weird places, but all the other stuff is true. So I love all those things about spine, and I really love working with the individuals. I mean, if you're in this space, you get to work with geniuses, right? Like these are geniuses that you get to work with every day. So I feel very blessed to have had that opportunity.
Excellent. So tell us then, you're doing well, you're performing. What got you into leadership within the spine for NuVasive?
Yeah, so I had some financial metrics I had. So my goal was to always get to a point financially that I could have options. And I thought I'm going to be a rep for like a full line rep for 10 years. I figured that would get me to the financial point. And I did it. It took me actually 8 years. And at that time, it's interesting. And this is a real lesson, I think, when your brain shifts and you make this mental shift about, what you want to do and where you want to go with your life, the whole universe starts to change around you. Like doors open up and opportunities come towards you.
Right.
So when I decided I wanted to go into management, because I pushed it off, I went to my regional vice president and I told him, I said, hey, I'm interested in this opportunity. And he actually turned to me and he said, hey, you're not ready for it. It's like, wow, like that was kind of a slap in the face. But what he said to me, he goes, Chris, I wish I had 100 of you working for me. He goes, but I don't. He goes, you can't be like you and be successful. You need to know how to work with all different types of people. Because I was kind of like Matt Damon, where he slaps the numbers up, like, hey, look at them apples, look at my numbers, look how good I am. Right. What I realized was that wasn't the best route. He said, hey, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help get you the leadership training. So I went through Medtronic's leadership training. Again, going back to the training theme, right? It was so valuable. It taught me a lot of lessons about who I was from a personality perspective, how to work with other people, and how to communicate better and help support individuals that either didn't have the experience or maybe, didn't communicate the same way. So that really gave me the training. And then when the opportunity came up with, in this case, NuVasive, I was able to raise my hand and bring it to fruition. So it'll be, it was almost 5 years in that role, in that leadership role with NuVasive. And what I can tell you is it was such a highlight to get to work with reps to help build teams. I built out a team in an area of kind of Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee that had no prior experience. So to be able, or prior business with NuVasive. So to be able to build something from scratch and say, hey, like, my fingerprints are on that. I did that. It was really fun to do. And I still have a lot of affection for the team and love what they've gone on to achieve.
That's beautiful. Helping investors achieve financial independence. Wasn't that a fascinating story? I can't say too much because we still have a part 2 to listen to. But what I really want to highlight about this story is really how intentional Chris has been from a very, very young age. He started investing and thinking about what he can do to just give him more options in life. Starting off with that first property with single family rental, and, and even choosing to be a cyclist over any other sport because of the longevity of the sport of cycling. It's great, and it just, I was young once, right? I mean, we were all, for those of you that are listening that aren't young, we were all young once. But I think it's so valuable to hear these things because if you're young now, there's so many things you can do that literally in 5 to 10 years, you will be living a completely different life. And I'm not talking about career performance. I'm talking about a lot of the decisions you make outside of your career that even give you more flexibility within your career. Now, with that being said, you got to deliver. We all know that. No matter whatever it is you're choosing to do, you got to deliver. And you have to deliver at all levels. If you're not in the industry yet, you're trying to get in, you better be delivering your current job because it's very difficult to get hired when you don't have the right performance, right, to show for it. And if you are in the industry, then again, you gotta be performing because how are you going to get into leadership? How are you going to make a different move? How are you going to get into a slightly more advanced space if you're not performing in your current role? So performance has to happen no matter what. And if you've listening to the Medical Sales Podcast for any amount of time, you can see that if there isn't a common theme that every single guest shares, it's performance and how important that is, no matter what, right? But then you got to think about the rest of life and what you want to do within yours, what your priorities are, and what is such a big important part of those priorities and allowing you to do what you want to do in life. Now, look, I'm not saying money is everything. I'm not saying you need to be money hungry or focus on the money, but to ignore your finances, I think it goes without saying. It's not something that anyone has an opportunity to do. It's important. It's important. It's not everything, but it's critical. And if you can take advantage of what you can do with your finances at a very young age, you're going to have that many more options. And even if you're not, if you're middle-aged and you're listening to this, and you know that you haven't been doing whatever you've been doing with your finances to the best of your ability, you can take advantage of the information you get now and do something about it and still have so many years to experience whatever it is you want to experience. And that's one thing that Chris really embodied throughout his life, to the point that now he helps people at all levels get to that beautiful place of financial freedom, or better said, financial independence. What I also liked about some of the things that Chris mentioned is training. And he says, get the best training you can get. I wholeheartedly agree with that. The beauty, though, that 2021 provides us is, yes, if you're in a company that has a great training program, more power to you. Apply yourself, utilize it, do it well. But now there are so many more resources out there that you can look into that can give you that excellent training. And if you're someone that really cares about where you're going and cares about what you want to be doing in however many years from now, then you're probably someone that looks to develop and it's going to look for every resource they can find to get that development to be the best person, the best professional, the best performer they can be. And that's something that Chris really brings home. Now, he doesn't stop there. There's so much more that he brings in part 2, and he drops some more pearls. And then another good thing to look forward to is he's actually going to get into how this whole real estate investing works and how, a lot of people can get involved and get on that road to financial independence. It's definitely something you want to hear. So make sure you tune in next week. Now, for those of you that are in a role now, and you're in the industry, you're in pharma, you're in medical device, you're in molecular, you're in genetic, and you want to ramp up your performance. You're saying, you know what, I'm listening to this right now, and I need to develop. I need to do something. Then you already know what I'm going to say. You need to go visit evolveyoursuccess.com and select Improve Sales Performance. Or you can just email me directly, Samuel@evolveyoursuccess.com. And I'm going to connect you with myself or one of our coaches, and we're going to have a discussion about specifically what you can do to get to where you want to go. And if you don't know where you want to go, but you just know you want to advance, then we can help you figure that out as well. There's some things that Chris is going to say in the next episode that I'm not going to spoil, but it really speaks to the importance of not just doing what's right as far as the customers are concerned, not just doing what's right as far as your own planning around your position is concerned, but also doing what's right within your company and being an active player within your company and understanding, as a sales professional, especially someone that's leadership bound, you're not just servicing the customer. You're servicing the customer, you're servicing your colleagues, you're servicing your leadership. I mean, you are a sales professional to all of the above, and you're providing value for all of the above. And that is an active role. That is not a passive role. That's an active role that you can get in front of today and start making changes in how you conduct your business. So if you're interested in that, make sure, again, you visit evolveyoursuccess.com or go ahead and email me directly at samuel@evolveyoursuccess.com. I love the fact that, every week we get feedback on what people are doing with these episodes, what they're learning, what it's making them think about, the things that they're starting to consider because of them. And that's why we're doing this, right? We are providing our own level of value to all of you out there that have taken the time to listen in and understand what we're doing here at the Medical Sales Podcast. So keep it going. Let's keep it going. Our membership is growing. Everybody's learning something, and we're going to continue to have the best guests we can find that are going to continue to drop pearls of wisdom that are going to essentially blow your mind. That's my whole goal, right? So make sure you tune in next week for part 2, and we're going to hear the rest of what Chris has to share with us, how his company works, and hey, maybe even how you can get involved if you're in a position to really take some serious action about reaching financial independence. As always, thank you so much for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast, and we will catch you all next week. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.